Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Rebel Wide Ball. Not a huge amount happening in the political field. The main, I suppose, discussion and interest centred around the lifting of restrictions, which are due to happen when Level 5 finishes next Tuesday night. It would appear the government have been at pains to point out that they really are in favour of moving things forward, and it would appear that the commercial side of things will definitely open on Wednesday. Some discussion about hospitality, that the belief is that any outlet that serves food, but they have to make sure there's some sort of a chef out the back rather than bringing up the local chipper or buying a few empty pizza boxes. That approach won't work on this occasion. Niffet, or particularly Tony Hoolan, I don't think is hugely impressed at the speed at which these restrictions are lifted, and I think there's a little bit of discussion going on at the moment. So we may have to wait until, is it usually 6 o'clock on a Friday night, when the Taoiseach of the day, Micheál Martin, on this occasion descends those famous Titanic stairs to tell us what's planned in the lead up to Christmas. Seamus Wolf, my God, this individual is keeping them well entertained. And today in the Dáil there was another effort to haul Helen McEntee, the Minister for Justice, over the coals. She seems to be sticking to her guns, that it was her choice. She picked this man and that's it, get over with it. But it has shone a light on the ridiculous, I won't say archaic, but I'd say self-preservation maybe method of appointing people, the Whigs, to the higher office, and this famous judicial advisory group or whatever it is. It's badly in need of reform, and maybe that's one of the good things that may come out of this. We can't let the occasion pass, of course, without saying well done to our Tipperary folk. I'm not too sure whether anybody tuned this way or not, but what a day last Sunday was for, I won't say the people of Tipperary, because only a small minority of them follow the fortune of the Gaelic footballers, but what a football team they had. And maybe it was an aligning of the sun, moon and stars, because everything just came right for them on the day. They played excellent football. It was an entertaining match. And all the players that came back, well, the three main players that came back from last year. And, I think that everything, as I say, went right on the day. But whether it did or it didn't, it'll be a day that will never be forgotten by, well, the whole of the country, but particularly those people who've tried to keep Gaelic football going in a county where a huge number of people, including a lot of GA people, couldn't care less about it. So well done to them, and well done to the people of Cavan. Even though there's never any worry about Gaelic football in Cavan, it's always part of their DNA and will into the future, regardless of whether they win or lose Ulster Championship. But that win last Sunday, was absolutely inspired. And when you think of where they came after the lockdown, being relegated down to Division 3 and then getting back on the horse, coming from behind to beat Monaghan. Then they had the victory over Antrim. Then down, you saw what happened to them, another massive comeback. And against Donegal, more or less led from pillar to post. The referee did make a serious effort to make it an even game by giving black cards to two Cavan fellas where Donegal scored 5 points during that period. But that's all history now. The great Gaels of Cavan are in an All-Ireland semi-final, as are Tipperary. In terms of what's happening here in Cork, one would hope that after last Sunday's, they don't have to, just because it was a bad result, it doesn't mean that Project Cork football has to be abandoned. I was a little bit surprised that Ronan McCarthy, the team manager whose term is now up, said after the game that he will take his time about making up his mind as to whether he should seek an extension or not. I don't think that time is available to anybody, because vacuums in the past have never served Cork football well. They're going to be back in training in January. That's only maybe 5 or 6 weeks away. So I think that the Cork County Board, and I'm sure they will move fast to put a new management team in place. If it is Ronan McCarthy, absolutely no problem about that, but I'm just saying that probably needs to be done. Of course, down the line, at this time of year, obviously county conventions, and this county convention will probably be, one of the little bits of interest will come when the accounts for the Páirc Uí Chaoimh Stadium for the past 2 years are brought to the market. And obviously they won't make pleasant reading with the debts in the stadium now, it's something like 34 million. So there could be a bit of negative press around that, but that was all put to bed today, if you like, with the announcement that they have, set up one group now where, in a nutshell, that all the fundraising from various sources will be under the one umbrella group called One Cork. That means that the Cork County Board, which, that its fundraising or its financial affairs, that plus the stadium committee and Cork Corky will all be under the one operation. I think this is what Croke Park will want anyway, because over the past while we've seen some, splinter supporters groups maybe fundraising. You saw the situation up in Mayo, which didn't end very well for anybody. But it's incredible that this Cork Corky, I do believe that was set up by a couple of footballers who tried to raise a few bob, so that the team could have a proper physio, maybe in proper facilities a couple of years ago. And I'd say then that some fellas started keeping a look at this, and hurlers started jumping on board. And from that then I think they brought in the Camogie and the ladies football. But it was a footballing group that started. So these people forget that kind of stuff. So it's now in place. And there's a couple of serious hitters involved in it. That this group will be made up of Kevin O'Donovan, who's obviously the CE of the Cork County Board, and then you have Tracy Kennedy, the outgoing chairperson, Mark Sheehan, the incoming chairperson, and Jim McGowan, who's the county treasurer, and they are the big hitters in terms of the officialdom. Then they've brought in people with business experience and big bucks experience as well. And, they include Michael Laughlin, who'll be well known in the building industry, Jim Wolfe, the chief executive of Dairy Gold, Kieran Callan, who's probably the lesser known of that group, but West Cork man, very involved in, commercial life in West Cork and brings a wealth of experience. And then John Mullins, who I suppose came to fame, his fame, the word maybe not, with Bord Gáis, and these are serious business people, and look, that's the way to go, isn't it? And then you have the Tomás Mulcahy's involved in it, and then the two guys that started maybe some of this Cork Corky, Conor McCarthy of Gaelic football from O'Donovan and Rossa, and Sean O'Brien was a good player from Nemo as well. And I think the commercial manager is a lady called Sinead O'Keefe, a Kerry lady. Her father was a great footballer for Kerry back in the day. He was the prince of fullbacks in that game, John O'Keefe, who just did his talkie on the pitch. So the intent to raise is 20 million over 5 years. They'll probably need every bit of it. But they have some lands to sell in Kilbarry, and once they get the planning sorted out there, they should bring in a few shillings. They're talking about the naming rights for Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and I doubt if it's going to be the Four Winds pub in Ahiol that will get this naming rights. You've seen some stadiums, a lot of stadia all over the world, the main stadia that's big. International groups get involved in, so hopefully that will happen there as well. The Rebel Bounty, have you heard of that? You probably haven't, but you will be. That's the county board drawing a new guys. And in a nutshell, I mean, look, the Páirc Uí Chaoimh and the debt and money that's required going forward will have to be raised by Cork people. The days of bailouts by Croke Park is well and truly over. So it's Cork GA that's going to have to rise to the challenge here. And I know there's criticism sometimes of the Rebel Bounty, whereby basically senior clubs must sell 100 tickets, I think, intermediate clubs 70 and junior clubs 50. And it is going to place an onus of responsibility in clubs. It's not going to be easy for them, but I suppose, some clubs in the past didn't make a huge effort, other clubs did. And but it would appear now that they're driving ahead with the Rebel Bounty. So I think it's a good idea to have everything under the one roof. Do you know what? It's amazing when you think about it, that county board delegates and county board meetings were all to go for a number of years since the GA started. And since they stopped having them because of Mr. COVID, they have succeeded in running the best club championship in the county ever. Here they have put together this fundraising group. I would guarantee you that if there was county board meetings, half this stuff won't got through because you're the people with vested interest having arguments. And it would appear now that it is big business, and I wonder, has the day for the county board delegate, is this the end of the line for them? Are they now an endangered species, I wonder? But maybe that's a discussion for another day, and we may at some stage bring people on to have a discussion about it. Anyway, as to what's happening for the weekend, we've got the hurling semi-finals. The last four, Kilkenny and Waterford, they play that Saturday at 6 o'clock, and then the following day we have Limerick and Galway. I was going to say that's the big one, but I suppose in essence it is. For Waterford, they have been the team, I suppose, if you like, of the year in terms of where they came from. They didn't win a championship match. 9 championship outings they had prior to this year and didn't win one of them. And now here they have, got over Cork, lost narrowly, it must be said, to Limerick. Was it by 4 points? And then getting over Clare. They play Kilkenny, and Brian Cody's record is somewhat awesome in this day. He has been involved in 19 All-Ireland semi-finals and winning 16. That'll give you an idea of what Waterford are facing. Waterford have played, 12 semi-finals, I think, since 1988, and have only won 2. That was in 2008 and 2017. But this Waterford team, I think, I'm almost tempted to say that I fancy them to win it. But when you say that against teams like Kilkenny, and Kilkenny aren't anywhere near the team they were in the past, but it's a bit like Nemo Rangers and football, Dr. Crokes and Kerry, these big teams, when you think that they're some way vulnerable against a team coming from a lower base, shall we say, they rarely get caught. And even though that fellas like Walter Walsh now and Colin Finlay were taken off the last day, they're still dependent on TJ Reid, was an incredible player. 24 goals and 370 points, and he's still going strong, probably one of the best Kilkenny hurlers of all time. But Waterford, Austin Gleeson is playing a more mature style of hurling. Did I say football? Ty de Burka, his mother's some Dingle, hence the name de Burka, I would imagine. He's more or less like a quarterback now, the way he does all these deliveries. And then they have Jesse Hutchinson, we've spoken to before about him, the man who came back from soccer. Jack Fagan, who played hurling for Meath at one stage. And then you have Stephen Bennett. He has really turned into a great free taker. Lost Pádraig Manny. So I'm tempted to fancy Waterford, but when I think then about who they're playing, maybe I've got to change my mind. Limerick and Galway, my God, this is it now in terms of physicality. There's very few small guys hanging around the pitch here. We've spoken about the Kilkenny half backline before, Diarmaid Burns, Declan Hannon and Kyle Hayes, all tall players. Then you've got the half-forward line, Gearóid Hegarty, he's 6'5" and knocking over points for fun. Tom Morrissey on the other side. And then you've Aaron Gillane inside in the inside line. Galway as well, they have some... And they're a kind of a Jekyll and Hyde outfit, if you like, that's, they can be... I'm convinced that, were it not for Cathal Barrett being sent off last week, that just Tipperary would be playing here. I was going to say maybe we should have a little bit of sympathy for Tipperary hurlers. It's a long time to be waiting. 55 years is a long time. That's the last time that they put back-to-backs together back in 1965. And All Ireland's back-to-backs, and I know they were so bitterly disappointed. It's amazing that it happened the weekend when the footballers lifted every boat in Tipperary, or at least lifted the football ones. So yeah, watch out for Daithí Burke. He's a great full back. And then they have a good half back line as well, and Fintan Burke, who plays in the left hand side, and of course then it's centre back, Gearóid McInerney in particular. At midfield you've Pádraig Manning, but the inside line, well, Joe Canning, he plays a wing forward, and he's been pointing from play, but from frees and sideline cuts, but maybe not from play. I think only 4 points so far. But as fellas like Conor Cooney and Conor Whelan in the inside line, but a guy who's been really stepping up to the mark for them as well is Brian Concannon at corner forward. So I'm expecting 2 good games for a start. I'm going to stick with Waterford, and I suppose you have to fancy, of course you do, you'd have to fancy Limerick. They've answered every question that has been asked them thus far, and I would imagine the same thing will will happen on Sunday afternoon. Then we have the Camogie semi-finals on here. The Liberty Insurance Camogie semi-finals. The big three in Camogie basically are Cork, Kilkenny and Galway. Cork will play Kilkenny in their semi-final. They're both on Saturday in Páirc Uí Chaoimh at 12:30 for the Cork Kilkenny game, and I think it's 2:15 for the Galway and Tipperary game. I expect Galway to beat Tipperary. They're the All-Ireland champions. They're a good team. Tipperary have been away from the top table. I think the last All-Ireland one was back in 2003. But like, they are here on merit. But I mean, they would be better than the other teams around the place, maybe with the exception of Wexford. Orla Dwyer is a loss for them because she has gone back to play Aussie rules. But watch out for a girl called Rebecca Henley. Now in Camogie, a sideline cut is worth 2 points, and in a recent league game between it was Cork and Galway, she pointed 2 sideline balls, one from either side. So that was a total of 4 points, and actually Galway only won by 3, 15-12. But anyway, I think the Cork will be better than Kilkenny. Kilkenny have been a little disappointing over the last couple of years, and I know that a few players have dropped away from it, but look, they will be still serious enough opposition. I suppose Cork have been under a little bit of a transition, if you like. I mean, there's no more Aoife Murray, she's retired. You've also Bridge Cork Green, Rena Buckley, they are now gone. Then you had injuries. You have, was it Orla Cotter? She went to America. I'd say hope to come home, but COVID put an end to that. Julie White is injured, and Jim O'Connor, who has a punctured lung, and she was meant to be out until September. But this is an incredible woman. We saw her a couple of years ago in an All-Ireland final, and I don't know how she played through the playing barrier, but she did. And I guarantee you she's going to be playing on Saturday as well. But they've Amy Lee's their new goalkeeper, and they've people like Libby Coppinger and Maeve Callahan who are involved with the football team. They're back there in defence. Hannah Looney, Laura Tracy plays full back. Hannah Looney is an outstanding player at wing back for them, and then at midfield you have Chloe Sigerson and Aisling Thompson. Who's these turned out to be, well, Aisling Thompson is always a well-known player, but midfield is vital for them. And then in the forwards, you have kind of a West Cork influence, if you like, with Orla Cronin at centre forward and Linda Collins from Courcey Rovers, full Orla's from Inniskeen. And you have the Mackey sisters, one of them plays centre half back, and the other girl plays a wing forward. She got, a man of the match, Katrina, the last day. So, I think that the Cork Camogie team will get over Kilkenny and to make some All-Ireland final. You know what I was looking through, or I saw somewhere. I remember a couple of years ago when Armagh won the All-Ireland, a good few years ago now. They had, 16 in the backroom staff. Then Dublin busload of them. The Cork Camogie team haven't fell off it. 14 involved in their backroom staff. It shows the way that sport has gone now, that, some people would argue that some of these backroom people aren't needed at all. I don't know whether they are or not. But anyway, there's 14 of them. And Liam Cronin is one of them. I think he's the new coach, and I think he's trying to change things around. But anyway, I think that since Paddy Murray took over this team, they've played between league and championship. There have been 12 matches between Cork and Kilkenny, and Cork have won. Is it 8 of them? So there's a good history there as well. Moving on to rugby, and of course it was a big disappointment last weekend, and I had one or two comments about mentioning about the non-Irishmen playing, the people, the lads that can play, because of this been 3 years. That rule now has gone to 5. But what I did forget, or at least what I was reminded of, was that I forgot about the Irish players that are playing abroad that are not allowed to play for the Irish team. And Simon Zebo is a person that comes to mind. And my God, he's one Irishman. Him played his football with St. Michael's, hurling with Blackrock. But because he's playing in France, plays with Racing, he's not allowed to play. So some people not very impressed with that. They played Georgia on Sunday. They have played them 4 times, I think, since. I'm not too sure when did all of that start. But They've won the 4 of them, and they'll win the next time as well. The last meeting was 2014, and they won by 49-7. Somebody made a comment about England and the Ireland game last week, and talk about a way of maybe insulting somebody. They said that England were as comfortable without the ball, just think about that, as they were with it. So Ireland, it would appear, have a way to go, but maybe this is the best way to have them, because sometimes in between the major tournaments, Ireland seem to do well, and then maybe not so much. So that's not the case now. They're a good bit off the top. They said that that the England team, that Jurgen Klopp, when he took over at Liverpool, that he brought in a nuclear physicist just to get them over the line. They reckon that in Limerick now, or not Limerick, but that England now may need to do something like that. So I'd say for the Irish team at the moment, the local physics teacher will probably do the business. In terms of soccer, well, of course, it was an incredible week of mourning, a couple of days of mourning after, one of the greatest players of all time, Maradona. And I suppose for some people of a certain vintage will remember him. He was, back in the day, he transcended soccer. Like, everybody knew who this guy was. He was more popular and as well known, I had to put in well known there, as Donald Trump is to people today. That's the influence he had on people. Now, it was a different era. He played in, 4 World Cups, and he should have played probably in the in 5 of them, because in 1978 he didn't get selected, despite the fact that he had been on the panel. And would you believe, it just shows you the difference. Argentina won that World Cup, and shortly after, 2 players, Ricky Villa and Ozzy Ardiles, came to Spurs. If there's any sports fans now, they might understand this. But the sports manager at the time, he got in contact with Ozzy Ardiles, and he invited him over to join them. This guy didn't realise that. He told him, he said, look, there's another player there out there in Argentina, will I bring him with you? So he brought Ricky Villa, and it was a huge thing at the time. Some of our more mature listeners would, and viewers would probably remember it. He brought him, 2 of them arrived on. What massive fanfare. But they didn't realise that these sports fellas were only after coming up from Division 2 then. And they weren't long there when the 2 of them realised, my God, we're after arriving in the wrong town here with these buckos. But anyway, they did okay, actually. Spurs ended up, I think, in mid-table that time. Ardiles became a legend at White Hart Lane, still lives in England. But poor old Ricky didn't, the heat, the cold weather and all that, he couldn't stick it. And after 3 years, he decided to head off. He said he wanted to go to Miami. Beautiful weather. But anyway, 6 months out there, whatever group of boys he was playing with, the franchise moved up to Minnesota. And like, you'd need the brass monkeys up there, have to get themselves checked out every now and then for fear they're frozen to death. So yeah, can you imagine all of that happening? But back to the World Cups. I mean, then World Cups, you'd watch them, but there's a World Cup now every night of the week. There's so much soccer on television. Nothing back in those days. So Maradona, what an incredible player. And like, we got to see him, like, not really huge amount, it was only the World Cup. Like, I mean, he played with Barcelona, and that lasted 2 years. And there was an absolute, I think they were playing in some cup final, and there was an absolute burst up, and he was involved in that. He then moved to Napoli, and Napoli had never won an Italian championship. There was, south of Rome, I think, there was never a team won it. It was AC Milan and clubs like that, Juventus and Inter Milan, had won the majority of those titles. And Italian soccer was so much more advanced at times than, say, English and the other federations. So this was huge for him. He was there a couple of years, and they won their first, their league out there for the first time, and they won it again a couple of years later. He was an absolute legend. But of course, when we think about him, we think about that World Cup in 1986, where he got that incredible goal where he literally fisted into the back of the net, and Peter Shittleton was in goal, he was going ballistic. But 4 minutes later after it, he won a ball in the middle of the field and he cut through the England defence. And if you look back on it, there are English defenders. And you know sometimes the way, if you ever watch a greyhound race, when the race is over, the 5-2-5 or whatever, when they cross the line, they're running up in ditches and up in walls trying to stop themselves. Well, these English players, they were literally speaking, he turned them inside out, and there was one fella, he nearly crashed into himself. The ball was in the back of the net, and of course, it was after the famous Argentinian, the Falklands, and of course the English guys that time. It was in Mexico, Fleet Street, and it wasn't one of England's greater, another one of their foreign policy tricks. But anyway, they were saying, bring on the Archies. My God, did they bring on the Archies? And he went on to win it. I think he only won one World Cup, but he was a huge part of everybody's life. Sadly, after that then, well, not after that, but in later life, he was a really impulsive guy. And then he started eating, drinking, smoking, and it was downhill. So he went a little bit early to the great stadium in the sky. But I would imagine that when he arrived up there last night, that maybe the English guys gave him the cold shoulder, but I'm sure that the other nationalities, and without any shadow of doubt, the Irish guys up there, extended to him the hand of friendship, whatever about the hand of God that belted that ball into the back of the net. So yeah, great individual. It's another one of those events that make this year probably memorable again. So we say, slán to poor old Diego Maradona. And so that's more or less it this week. Thanks for listening, or thanks for watching. Till the next time, stay safe.